hopefully this won't jingle the thing up too much. You can just pour it if you want. I like to just use the spoon method. I have poured it many times. It's messier but faster. Most of the time I end up just making a mess anyway. So what I like to do is fill these up about half full. Like I said, these instructions are all written out on the Hearst site, and I follow his instructions pretty closely. Fill about half full, and then I'll bang on the table to get it all to settle in, fill it into all the holes. Because what you'll find is that you'll get little pockets of air and little bubbles will start coming out. I generally will do 1 or 2 of these before, and then I'll bang it. This one's a pretty easy one here with this barrel. The molds that have a lot of little thin things, those are the easier ones to not get filled up. So you just have to kind of pay attention to what you're doing. Watch them for the bubbles. Sometimes if you pour it, with these, if you pour it to the side, then they'll run in, as opposed to trying to pour it just onto the top. Because then, if you do it that way, you end up with like a suction issue, and it won't get down in there. So small thin things, do it a little to the side. Big ones, just pour it on in. And then I'll show you the bang here in a second. But you can see how some of these are how they slide in. And then these little thin ones are the hardest to get it to go in. I'm really making a mess here. Alright, so what you do is you just bang it. You see the bubbles, and it opens these things up so that the stuff runs into it. And then you can do it the rest of the way. But I'm going to move on. This one, this is the bridge. I'm doing a small bridge, so I only need to do this one twice. No, 4 times. 1 cup, these big solo cups, is enough to do 4, maybe 5, sometimes a little bit over 5, depending on how big. These are some fairly large molds. So depending on how big the molds are, that's what I've found one of these cups can do. The Hearst site has instructions on how to figure out and do enough for just 1 mold. Now when filling these molds with this particular plaster, you need to overfill because it's a lot of water, and the plaster will sink to the bottom, and you'll end up not completely filling it all the way up, and end up with uneven bottoms. And what you don't want is to have, if they're too tall, okay, well, you can sand them. If they're not tall enough, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. Now I'll have to bang this one one more time. Get all that stuff down in there. Bubbles to pop. Okay. Finish this one off. So that's what I always keep an extra one around, just in case I have a little bit of extra plaster. Don't worry about the plaster in there, we'll just get rid of that later. And so now we run off for 3 to 6 minutes per the website, but I found in DC it's more like 10 or 15 minutes before this is enough that we can soak off the water. 2 options that you have: you can either take a paper towel after it's pretty much settled, you've got a layer of water, and you can soak off the water with a paper towel, or you can just scrape it off and not worry about it and clean up the mess later. I've done it both ways, they both work perfectly fine. So, alright, be back in about 10 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes, maybe 8. I kind of lost track, I was doing something else. So I'm going to show you both ways that I do this. So what you see is you can come and you can kind of test, and right in the corner, and you know it's starting to get kind of dry. The other thing I look for is that I'm starting to see the outlines of the actual things, molds, as they're sinking. So what you can do is, I don't go all the way down. You know, don't let it completely fully rest on there, just in case it's a little too early. If you do this too early, what happens is that you pull off a bunch of the plaster. If you do this too late, it's much harder to scrape the plaster. I think if anything, I might be a little bit too early here, so I'm just going to go real gingerly, and you just lay real lightly, and then it soaks a bunch of the water off. Yeah, just a touch too early, I think. And then once you've pulled the water off, you take your blade, about a 45-degree angle, too much this way and you'll pull too much stuff off, too much this way, and you don't really get it cleaned off. You may need to go from 2 or 3 directions, and you just scrape it off. Now one thing is, if you've got one that's not quite full enough, you can actually use this to kind of scrape across that to refill in any holes where you've kind of not fully done it. I have to kind of come this way. So this way you don't have it humped up, and you'll have nice even faces. Okay. Any little bits of extra around the edge just pop off at the end anyway. Okay. Now, if you're going to do one, and you know, just to show you how, I mean, it can be kind of messy. You can do it with without even doing that, and you just end up with a lot of goop and a lot of water. So it's up to you, whichever way you want to do it. I don't really have a preference. Kind of depends on my mood and how much paper towels I have. All right, so let me finish these up, and I will be right back. There we go. That's what you want. Okay, it's been about 25-30 minutes, and maybe even a little longer. What you can see is they're dry. You can start to see that, and then it's super easy to get these out. All this extra stuff just pops off, rolls off. Try to stay in focus. I don't know how I'll do it, but just like this, pop them out. And then what I do is I have a dehydrator that I used to use to dry pen blanks when I did a lot of wood turning, and now I've just turned it into my drying these blocks. What I do is each tray gets a different one of these pieces of the molds, so I can keep them separate. Most of the time it doesn't matter. It's a nice, I love that skull. But for things like the bridge, or when you're doing a specific project that requires a specific mold, then that's what you can do. This one is just to be walls, so I've got a couple of them that I'm just putting together. You throw it in there for a couple hours and they're done. You can just leave them to dry however you want, you know, just out, but I would at least let them dry overnight. So cleaning these off is really easy, and the plaster just comes right off. Okay, I'm just going to show you this one. This has some thin parts, so these are more difficult to get out. You just have to be a little more careful. You can't just flip them open like the others. So the way I do it is I just kind of go around like this, get some of the easy ones out first, just so I have more room to play with. This is from his cavern mold section. Very nice barrel. And a very nice fire that you can make. But some of these other thinner pieces are easy to break pulling them out. They're not completely 100% dry. So I have broken more than one coming through. So, all right, get that out. Sometimes you break it pulling the other stuff out though. So then what I do is you kind of have to bend it and pull it apart and then get it out a little at a time. These are just ones that you have to be kind of careful of. The other one is the wooden door. Can't remember which one that's off of. So you just pull it apart, push it from the bottom up real slow. So okay, with that done, here's another one. The lid of this crate here, which is also a difficult one to get out sometimes. So like I said, these are very nice molds. This will just slide right on there and you have a closed crate or an open crate. All right, let me finish this up. And just a little bit more about cleanup. It's very easy. Don't worry about your cups. Just crank it up. Top it out. And there you go. That's empty and good for use again. And then as far as the little table goes, I just do that. It all pops right off. And you're good to go. So, very simple. Here is the dried. So 4 trays of dried blocks. Ready to be tested, sanded, glued, and used in your terrain projects. So here are some more of these. So that is the end of this, how you cast dental plaster in molds. If you have any questions, just leave a comment, shoot me an email. Until next